Daniel 7 9 to 12 presents a courtroom scene filled with majesty, authority, and judgment. Daniel sees thrones placed in position, and the Ancient of Days takes his seat. His clothing is white as snow, his hair like pure wool, and his throne burns with fiery flames. The scene communicates holiness, wisdom, purity, and absolute sovereignty. Nothing escapes his sight, and no kingdom of man can stand against his decree. The fiery throne and the river of fire proceeding from before him reveal that God's judgment is not random wrath, but the unveiling of his righteous rule. Thousands upon thousands stand before him, emphasizing the universal scope of his authority. The books are opened, showing that history is under divine examination and that earthly powers are accountable to heaven. The vision particularly centers on the arrogant horn that speaks boastful words. Daniel watches as the beast is slain and its dominion destroyed. This imagery points to the downfall of rebellious covenantal and political powers that opposed God and persecuted his people. The beastly kingdoms represented throughout Daniel are shown to be temporary, no matter how terrifying they appear in the present age. Their authority is limited and ultimately removed by God himself. The judgment scene is not merely about the end of nations, but about the vindication of the saints. The oppressive systems that exalted themselves against God were brought to an end, while God established the everlasting reign of his Son. The destruction of the beast demonstrates that human empires built on pride, violence, and unbelief cannot endure before the throne of heaven. This passage also prepares for the revelation of the Son of Man later in the chapter. The Ancient of Days judges, and the Son receives the kingdom. The transfer of dominion reveals the triumph of the Messiah and the establishment of his reign. The kingdom given to him is not fragile or temporary like the kingdoms of men. It is everlasting and cannot be overthrown. The opening of the books also carries covenantal significance. God had warned Israel repeatedly through the law, the prophets, and the words of Jesus concerning judgment upon rebellion and unbelief. Daniel's vision anticipates a climactic judgment in which the old persecuting order would pass away and God's kingdom would be openly manifested through Christ. The removal of the beast's dominion in verses 11 to 12 shows that while certain earthly powers continued for a season, their authority was already broken by divine decree. The kingdom of God advanced while the former powers faded away. The vision assures believers that history is not controlled by beasts, rulers, or empires, but by the one seated upon the fiery throne. Daniel 7 verse 9 to 12 therefore reveals the certainty of God's judgment, the downfall of rebellious powers, and the triumph of the Messiah's everlasting kingdom. The scene calls attention to the majesty of God, the certainty of his word, and the complete victory of Christ over every opposing authority.